This is a Porsche 911 Carrera RS, and you can't get it in the United States. This car is the lightweight, track-focused version of the 993 911, which is everyone's favorite 911. It was sold from 1995 to 1998, but this car was never available in North America. And yet, here I am in California, and today I'm going to review it. I've borrowed this car courtesy of OLOI, a motorsports-inspired apparel company that's launching its first product, Pantwear, sometime in February. You can click the link in the description to check out OLOI, their website, and their Instagram. But back to the RS. The 993 Carrera RS is especially special because it's the predecessor to the GT3 RS models that have become so popular. But Porsche didn't send a GT3 model to the United States until the 996 generation in 2004, and we didn't actually get a GT3 RS until the 997 generation in 2007. And yet, here's this one, imported from Japan, completely unmodified and incredibly rare, as Porsche only made about 1,000 of these for the entire world more than 20 years ago. Now, the 993 Carrera RS had some weight savings benefits over the standard 993 911 and some other cool upgrades, which I will show you. It also had some more power. This car has 296 horsepower, which is up about 25 horsepower from the standard 993 911. And with that in mind, let's dive into a few interesting quirks and features. Then I'm going to get it out on the road and drive it, and then I'm going to give it a Doug score. Now I'm going to start inside the front compartment, where a lot of 993 owners will probably be very surprised to see the differences between this lightweight 993 and their regular 993. Now, one big difference you notice the moment you open up the front compartment is that it doesn't stay open. Most 993 models have hydraulics. They were ditched in this car to save weight, and instead you have a hood prop you have to stick in place, and that means you can't slam this thing down. You got to make sure you've taken the prop away first, or else you could damage it. Another thing that you will see this car doesn't have compared to a regular 993, that would be the trunk liner. The entire trunk of this car is completely exposed. Porsche just ditched the trunk liner that makes things look nicer. They ditched it to save weight. They figured people who bought this car wouldn't really care, and of course they were right. Now, one other interesting item I found here in the trunk is the fact that this car comes from the factory with a kill switch for the battery. You can see the owner has added sticky notes saying on or off, since apparently it was unlabeled, but there's a kill switch inside the trunk of this car if you want to let it sit for a while, if you want to turn off all the power for whatever reason. You won't see that in most normal cars, only racy cars like this one. Now, next up, I want to cover this silver bag in the trunk. This came with the car, and apparently the original owner in Japan had this. This was just some stuff from Porsche, and oh, is it ever some stuff from Porsche. You open it, and the first thing you see are these cool Porsche gloves. Look at this. I guess this is for roadside tire changes. It says Porsche on it, and it has the German flag colors, and that is really cool, but it's not as cool as what's inside this little zippered compartment that says Porsche. You open it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this looks like a police light that you would stick on your dashboard if you were trying to go hunt down criminals in your unmarked car. Now, when I first saw that, I would just think that maybe the owner of this car is like a government official, or he's bribed a government official into getting one of those lights so he can move through traffic a little bit faster, but it is in this perfectly sized Porsche container. It's almost like Porsche sold this car with the police light from new. Never seen anything like that before. Not sure what the story is there. Maybe they've just repurposed that Porsche container to carry this, but still, that is a crazy feature that I've never seen in any car I've ever reviewed. And finally, inside this silver bag, there is a first aid kit with all sorts of Japanese market first aid accessories, including this instant cold pack, which surprisingly is still cold. And if you turn over, look, even this polar bear is wearing this instant cold pack. It is so cold that it even makes polar bears cold when they get injured. What a great item to have in your first aid kit in your 993 Carrera RS. Next, we move on to the interior of the 993 Carrera RS, where once again, 993 owners will notice some significant differences from their car, starting with the fact that this car has no back seats. They've been removed to save weight. Instead, there's just this carpeted area back there that says Carrera RS in speed yellow to match the car. This car also has no sunroof. Most 993 coupe models had a sunroof, but this one doesn't, which provides two benefits. One, it saves a little weight since a power sunroof mechanism can weigh a little bit. It also lowers the center of gravity in the car because having a heavy power sunroof mechanism on the roof kind of raises things up. But if you just have a flat metal roof with no glass piece in it, no sunroof controls, that lowers the center of gravity just a little bit. Now, the most obvious thing to me in the interior is the seats. This car has sport bucket seats, but they're different from the ones in modern Porsche models. They're much narrower and tighter. It is actually kind of difficult for me to sit in these seats, and I'm not huge. This car was specifically limited to people who are rather small and rather narrow, aka Germans who thought they were race car drivers. One other noteworthy item over a regular 993 is the door panel. A regular 993 has a fairly traditional door panel with a nice little pocket where you can store stuff and all that. This car, it's a lot simpler. All you have is a fabric door loop, you have the power window controls, an easy door pull, and then the little circle which locks or unlocks the door. That's it. It's just flat. It doesn't have any adornment, stitching, leather, wood. It is simple, just like this car, built for a purpose. But beyond that stuff, it's worth noting the rest of the interior is relatively similar to a 993. In fact, the dashboard looks the exact same as a regular 993 you'd buy here in the US or anywhere else. Same steering wheel, gauges, it even has air conditioning, so it's not that different of an experience from a 993, at least when you're sitting in the driver's seat looking forward, except that you can't feel your butt. And finally, we move on to the back of the 993 Carrera RS and to the engine. Now, a regular 993 had a 3.6-liter flat-six engine, but the Carrera RS had the engine enlarged a bit. I mentioned earlier it had 25 more horsepower. It also had a 3.8-liter flat-six engine. This was some of the beginnings of a tradition that continues to this day, where the GT3 RS models have slightly larger engines than the regular 911s to accentuate their specialness, and of course, for more power. Now, one other thing this car had in the back over a regular 911 is the giant rear wing. I don't know if you can even still see me. The rear wing in this car is absolutely huge, bigger than any other 993 rear wing. Also, the beginnings of a tradition that continues to this day with the GT cars having huge rear wings. And finally, we move on to one other special detail on the outside of the car, and that would be the wheels. These are Speedline wheels, and on the 993, they were exclusive to the Carrera RS. These are three-piece wheels, not one piece like virtually every other wheel. Very cool. The other noteworthy item with these wheels is they are highly sought after in the 993 community, and a set of these wheels in nice shape off a Carrera RS can sell for like $10,000 just for 4 wheels. This car got them from the factory. All right. Driving the 993 Carrera RS. Now, the first thing you notice, the seats make it really difficult for someone tall like me to sit in it. I actually don't have a problem with my butt. I fit in the seat just fine. The problem is that my leg has to sort of go out in order to get around the steering wheel, which is fixed, and the seat bolster on the side comes up so far that it's impossible for me to sort of angle my leg out. So I'm sitting here kind of in some pain with my legs sitting up against the seat bolster, which is a problem. Now, with that said, you forget about it. Okay, you don't forget about it because I mean it's really uncomfortable, but you don't care about it that much because the driving experience of this car is so sweet. Everything about it is just exactly what you want a car like this to drive like. The 993 is everyone's favorite 911 because it was the best to drive. It was so enjoyable and just easy to throw around, easy to drive, great clutch, great shifter, great steering, and this car is that just taken to the next level. It feels amazing to drive. The clutch and shifter, for example, are just so good. You drop a gear, you rev match, which is so easy, and then you accelerate and it feels fast because it's a small car and it's a low car and it's right near the ground. Now, I've driven every version of 993, the base model, the 4S, the turbo, and I love the 993 turbo, but you don't need that much power to enjoy the car, and in fact, you can have a lot of enjoyment with a lot less power, as this car proves. Woohoo! Sounds like it's qualifying for Le Mans. It has a much deeper sound than a regular 993. It does not sound like a modern exotic car or anything like that, but it definitely sounds like it's more engaged and more angry and more sporty and racy than a regular 993. It's a lot of fun to drive. It really is. It's actually surprisingly quick in a straight line, which is something that I generally don't say about 993. 993 is quick enough. off. But this actually feels pretty quick. I love this thing. This isn't a car review that's going to appeal to a lot of people. I think this is a very niche car. Not too many people even know what this is. But for those of you who do and have always wondered what was the GT3 RS like before the GT3 RS, the answer is not quite as track focused, not quite as hardcore and angry, but just really amazing. This feels to me more like a slightly better 993 than like a predecessor to a GT3 RS, but it still drives and feels like an amazing car, and I'm thrilled I had the privilege to use it. And so that's the 993 Porsche 911 Carrera RS. I've never seen one of these before, and I'll probably never see another one, but it's really cool to get up close with basically the grandfather of the GT3 RS that has become so popular with Porsche enthusiasts, and I'm thrilled that I get the chance to share it with you. And now it's time to give this car a Doug score. And the Doug score is here. Compared against some other Porsches I've tested, this car does great in the weekend categories, but it'd be a tough daily driver with no back seat and those tight front sport bucket seats, plus a lack of equipment or features that modern cars have. Still, these can sell for $500,000 because this is a special car, even though its primary appeal is to Porsche geeks who appreciate its important place in the brand's history.